think we've pretty much covered this probably 3 times tonight. But the number one thing a supervisor from District 4 can do is just stay connected. And stay connected up on the divide that often felt like they're forgotten about. And just being in the community and knowing people in this room connects you to all of those little communities amongst the trails. Regardless of what the trail application is, I think the biggest thing that I can do for the district would be to stay involved, and hopefully I stay healthy enough that I can use all those trails.
Well, just like I said before, community meetings, getting out there with you, getting out with the public, and finding out, like I said, communicating with each other to see what the needs are and how the trails need to be better utilized, how the community wants their trails utilized, and how we can fund them and how we can keep them supported, especially for the safety issues that have been occurring in the county recently, to correct that right away, because it's getting to be really, you have a Facebook page that has El Dorado Watch, and El Dorado Watch has been showing and emphasizing a lot of issues that are happening on the Placerville Trail that needs to be corrected and addressed, because women with their children, babies and so forth, they're not feeling safe enough to use that trail right now. It doesn't seem that our police force has been actively going out there and trying to protect those people. So like I said, community needs to have a voice with based on having community meetings.
Okay. What I have to do is ask for some volunteers. I feel healthy enough, lucky enough to be able to go out and actually go on some of these trails. I want to find out about them, because I was one of those years ago when I had my kid in one of those 3-wheel runners. They used to run all over the place with me. So I still feel that what I'd like to do is not only talk to you, but I'd like to have some people who would take me on some of these trails and show me what you think that we could possibly get done. What's most important? What kind of safety things could we get involved with that would be the most, for everybody that wants to use it, young and old. And so I would like to get out there and enjoy the trails, either on foot or on a bike. Thank you.
In District 5, we have a unique opportunity, especially in the Tahoe portion of the area, to represent the groups not only by working collectively with the community-based groups, but to represent on state and federal boards, on the Tahoe Transportation District, on the California Tahoe Conservancy, the funding, the maintenance, and the creation of trails. And that's an important place where we support the voice by making sure that pressure is kept up as a county supervisor, that those trails happen and remain a priority against all of the other missions of those organizations. We also have a responsibility in District 5 to work closely with BLM, state parks, and the Forest Service, who are also our partners in maintaining, creating, and keeping our trail system healthy and happy. So it goes 2 ways. It's working with the grassroots, always keeping their back, and it's making sure we use the power of the office to get the work done.
So I'd set up quarterly forums where trails groups and myself can sit down and go through planning processes together. I've been doing a lot of this for the last 10 to 12 years in my region, working with different stakeholders in the area to get things done. And I found success in making sure that you have regularly scheduled times to communicate. And often, if you get different stakeholders together, you often will find that the solutions aren't far from what you think. And many of the projects that I'm currently working on right now that have a number of stakeholders involved in them, we've found more solutions or better solutions the farther into the process we've gotten. But you got to keep that process going. So for me as supervisor, I would schedule a quarterly forum or meeting or town hall, whatever you like to call it, with the different groups and sit down and keep those ideas flowing and hopefully try to help funnel those ideas through the county process, making sure that Parks and Rec, the commission, and so forth are all actively working on those things.
Communication is key. As I mentioned before, this group would be where I would start to find out what it is that you feel is important and how we could go about resolving some of the issues that there may be. communication and open door policy is so important. I know it's very frustrating when you have a supervisor and you can't get a hold of them or they don't return your call. I know that has happened, and that is the furthest from my intent. I intend to speak to everybody about anything. We might not always agree on something, but that's okay. We can discuss it and work towards common goals. The other thing is, in the campaign, I met with a lot of different people, and this one person has offered to show me, which I'm really excited to do, and she's going to take me on the trails that surround our district. And I've never done that before, and I think that that's a wonderful opportunity for me to get to see and experience our county as a whole.
I'd like to rewrite the question. What will you do to support the voice of the trails communities in your district? I think there are a lot of different communities, trails communities, like we talked about. There's a lot of different uses for different trails, multiple uses for some trails. So when we're talking about the voice, I think these are voices. Rubicon Springs, Great Lakes, it's a privately owned piece of land. So the trail that gets there gets a lot of press. There's a lot of environmental questions. The trails around my house, we have the Western States that come down through District 4. We have Tavistock that comes down through there. We have a lot of heavy use during a couple of weekends, good use during the others. The state parks, the Forest Service has about 55% of District 4. That's not a tax base. It's also an area where it's a different governmental jurisdiction. So working with the different jurisdictions, working with the different government agencies is absolutely vital, because our voice matters there as well, not just the Board of Supervisors, but the liaisons between the different communities is very important. And I want to be open, and I want to be honest, and I want to be representative, and I want to be that voice, because I do believe in trails and the different trails groups' uses. When speaking with somebody before the meeting, they said, we like the idea of multi-use trails. I do too. It's economically fundamental, good foundation. The hard part is, when you run into a horse and bicycle on the same trail, it's a steep spot. That's a hard thing to do as a personal thing. But we do share a community, and we do share the trails. And these communities have voices that all need to be heard. That doesn't mean everybody's going to get what they want. But it means if we work together, we can do better. Thank you very much.
Collaboration, really incredibly important. Collaboration with our governments, with the TRPA, what we have in Tahoe, we have learned, and I want the county down at the West Slope to learn this. It's incredibly important when you get a group of individuals come in passionate about something and say, we want this to happen. And that's what's happening with our new RPU up there with TRPA. Our county seats, we have a seat on the TRPA up there, and it's been amazing to watch because it has really been a great collaboration. I want to see that collaboration down here. Y'all remember what it was like when we had show and tell? That's what I plan to do. I plan to do a show and tell because I love being on trails. I'm going to be on these county trails. I'm going to be going back and reporting back to them. I can talk as long as I want when I'm county supervisor, right? At the county supervisor meeting. Not that I talk a lot, I listen more than I talk, but at this point, when I can see a trail, when I can go on a new trail, I'm going to be bringing that back to the county supervisors meetings and talking about it and saying, you know what, this is exciting, I want you to get excited about it, I want some fun, what I see out there.
One of the things that I do in the horse industry is I have draft horses. We pull wagons, I do Highway 50 wagon train, we go all over the state of California with the draft horses. I think, I don't know how many trails that a draft horse can be on down here, but that's the way that I can get the word out, is to do other things besides Highway 50 wagon train. There must be some trails that we can use in this area. We use Highway 50 like we use some of our trails that get off the road. It costs a lot of money. Say, for example, Highway 50 wagon train. They spend a lot of money just to pay California Highway Patrol to watch over us. We're all paying for that. And I think if there was some other trails, just for not just for draft horses, but for equestrians in this area, I think that would help out. That would get the word out.
Okay.
You're out of
When I think of voice of trails, if it was only one voice, it certainly would be a lot easier. But, we have a really engaged community, and it seems like we've got a lot of volunteers involved in the process. The problem is that as that comes forward, it's multiple voices because there's multiple interests in the mix. And I come back to the role of the policymakers. Of course, staff has to be prepared and well-positioned to do their job. But I think that the supervisor's role in this process has to be engagement in the process. And I think that the volunteers and the committees that work independently of government need to have the freedom to get their work done. But the supervisor has to show leadership by remaining engaged and not getting in the way of that process. But clearly there are times when the supervisor has to facilitate the interaction between BLM and the federal government and state parks. It's necessary in order to do it. Things like easements that are important for trail access, things like safety. The supervisor has to get involved in that, and I believe that they can be engaged without getting in the way. They can also facilitate things like simplifying the environmental process. They have to be engaged in order to do that. And so I think determining and discovering the right role of government is vitally critical. They have to work hard. They have to know what's going on with the various committees without getting in the way, and they need to be poised to engage those agencies to get things done.
Okay, so what I see here is what we need to do to support. So I guess to support